My fiancée gave my sports car to her white moonlight and posted a video on Instagram with a caption, "Happy 28th birthday to the boy I love most." In the video, my white McLaren 720S sits in the center of a beautifully decorated outdoor party, a huge red bow tied to its hood. Sophia, wearing a bespoke evening gown, hands the car keys to a handsome, slightly shy-looking man. The man takes the keys and, overwhelmed with excitement, pulls Sophia into his arms. They are surrounded by deafening cheers and catcalls. The comment section was full of envy and blessings. Oh, what kind of fairy tale love is this? Rich sister is so domineering. This guy is way too lucky. Must have saved the galaxy in a past life, right? Sophia and her little boyfriend are truly a match made in heaven. Lock them down. I cried. This is a birthday gift I wouldn't even dare to dream of. A 720S. The top comment was Sophia's reply. He deserves the very best the world has to offer. I opened my phone and expressionlessly watched the video that had quickly climbed the local Velour City trending list. My best friend and business partner, Lucas, was so furious he nearly smashed his phone. "Ethan, can you still sit there? What does Sophia think you are? An ATM? A sucker? No, she's literally grinding you into the dirt and even streaming it for the whole world to see." I lifted my eyelids and spoke as calmly as if discussing the weather. "Don't worry, let her keep flying for a bit longer." I leisurely fetched my car purchase contract, the full payment receipt, the invoice, and the vehicle registration, and took a high-resolution photo compilation. Then I dialed 110. When the call connected, my voice was clear and steady. "Hello, I want to report a theft. My car was stolen. It's a McLaren 720S. License plate VAK888L. The suspect is someone I know. Her name is Sophia." Lucas stared at me, dumbfounded as I hung up. "Ethan, are you serious? You're really calling the police?" I lifted the glass of ice water on the table and took a sip. The cold traveled down my throat all the way to my stomach. "What else? Save for Christmas." But she's Sophia, your fiancée. You're getting engaged next month. After doing something like this, how are you going to save face for her, for the Taylor family? Face is earned, not given. When she publicly trampled on my reputation in front of the whole internet, she should have thought about the consequences. I said indifferently. And besides, from now on, she is no longer my fiancée. Lucas was stunned for a long moment, then slapped his thigh, his face showing a complex mix of relief and worry. "Fuck, well done. I've hated that woman for a long time, always acting high and mighty, as if our apocalypse tech owes its success to her. Like her dad, just toss you a little angel round money. But the Taylor family has considerable power in Vero City, and her dad, George, is famously protective. Aren't you afraid he'll come after you?" I sneered. Haven't I already experienced enough of George's protectiveness? Sophia and I were college classmates. She fell for me at first sight and pursued me relentlessly. I was wholly absorbed in starting a business and didn't care for her. After graduation, my project, the Heart of Apocalypse AI interaction system, had taken shape and urgently needed seed funding. When Sophia found out, she went home to beg her father. George, with the shrewdness of a businessman, saw the potential in my project and invested $500,000 in an angel round. But the condition was that I had to become his son-in-law. For the company, for the brothers who stayed up late with me eating bread, I agreed. Over these years, Apocalypse Tech grew rapidly, its valuation soaring from the initial few $1 million to $3 billion now. I went from a poor student to being called Mr. Ethan by others. As the tide rose, the Taylor family status was solidified as well. George would tell anyone how sharp his investment I was and how he had recognized the gem. And Sophia, who had once been that enthusiastic, innocent junior, had become a commanding madam owner. She naturally enjoyed everything I created, bossing me around about company matters and even starting to meddle in my personnel appointments. I remembered the favor the Taylor family had shown me back then, so I repeatedly tolerated many of her actions. But tolerance does not mean having no boundaries. The bags, jewelry, and luxury cars I gave her totaled tens of millions of dollars, and I didn't bat an eye. But the McLaren she gave away today was the gift I had earned by my own efforts and rewarded myself for my 29th birthday after the company got on track. The car is registered in my name. Every penny is mine. Who does she think she is, taking my things to flatter some other man and making it public for everyone to see, as if afraid nobody will know that my Ethan is a spineless fool wearing a green hat? If she won't leave me any dignity, why should I worry about hers? The police arrived quickly. When Lucas and I reached the outdoor party, the atmosphere was at its peak. The so-called white moonlight, Leo was sitting in the driver's seat, lost in pleasure as he caressed the steering wheel, while Sophia leaned against the car door, looking at him with eyes full of love. A crowd of men and women surrounded the car, emitting waves of admiration. Two officers pushed through the crowd and walked straight to the car, their expressions serious. Who is the owner of this car? Leo and Sophia both froze for a moment. Leo instinctively raised the keys in his hand, with a hint of showmanship. It's mine, officer. Is there a problem? The officer glanced at him, then at Sophia. Is this car yours? Sophia stepped forward, hooked her arm through Leo's, chin lifted slightly, with a hint of offended arrogance. Of course it's his. I just gave it to him as a birthday present. Officer, you must be mistaken, right? The people around them started to jeer as well. Yeah, we all saw it. Sophia gave it to him. They're just a young couple exchanging a gift. Don't you cops have better things to do? The police ignored the surrounding noise, took out a body camera, and said in an official, businesslike tone, "We receive a report that this McLaren 720S with license plate Way, AK 888L, was stolen. We need to verify the owner's identity. Please present your vehicle registration and driver's license." Stolen? Sophia's expression changed instantly. She raised her voice in disbelief. No way. This car. Before she could finish, she saw me walking in from the edge of the crowd. My gaze passed over her and landed on Leo beside her. A smug smile still lingered on his face, but when he saw the police standing next to me, the smile froze, and a flicker of panic crossed his eyes. Ethan. Sophia's face went pale, then flushed. What do you mean? You called the police? I ignored her and walked straight up to the officers, handing over my ID and the electronic copy of the vehicle ownership document stored on my phone. Officer, I'm the one who reported it. Ethan, this car is registered in my name. Here are the purchase contract and payment receipts. The vehicle registration is in the glove compartment. The officer took my ID, checked the information, then said to Leo, "Sir, please get out of the car and cooperate with our investigation." Leo's face immediately flushed the color of cooked liver. He gripped the steering wheel and looked at Sophia as if begging for help. Sophia panicked completely. She rushed up to me, lowered her voice, and her tone was full of flustered outrage. Ethan, are you crazy? Do you know what you're doing? Where am I supposed to put my face? Where is Leo supposed to put his face? Your face? Leo's face? I looked at her, and for the first time the woman I had once tried to understand and accept felt so strange and ridiculous. Sophia, you went on Instagram Live and gave my car to another man. Did you ever think about where I am supposed to put my face? My voice wasn't loud, but it was clear enough for the people around to hear every word. The scene fell silent in an instant. Everyone's gazes swept back and forth between us like searchlights. There's too much information. The wealthy sister who delivered the car actually used her fiancé's car to give someone a ride? Then that boyfriend who was celebrating his birthday, doesn't that make him the male side lover? The crowd that had just been clamoring and offering congratulations now wore expressions that were wildly entertaining. Schadenfreude, contempt, curiosity, and more. Under everyone's stare, Leo could no longer sit still. He slunk off the car, stood to one side, looking as if he wished he could crawl into a hole. Sophia's cheeks flushed crimson. She had probably never endured such humiliation. She grabbed my arm and almost pleaded, "Ethan, please don't make a scene. Let's go home and talk, okay?" It's my fault. I'll apologize to you. Too late. I freed my arm, took a step back to put distance between us. Sophia, I'll make this clear in front of the police. First, this car is my premarital personal property. You have no right to dispose of it. Your actions constitute theft. Second, from this moment on, our engagement is formally dissolved. Breaking off the engagement, Sophia screamed, unable to believe her ears. All over a car? Ethan, are you serious? All over a car? I felt like I had heard the biggest joke. You think it's just because of a car? Sophia, what you gave away wasn't a car, it was my dignity. What you trampled wasn't my feelings, it was our future. After speaking, I stopped looking at her and said to the policeman, "Thank you for your trouble. If you need my cooperation later, contact me anytime." The officer nodded. One of them opened the car door, took the vehicle registration from the glove compartment, and after verifying the information said to Sophia and Leo, "Ms. Taylor, Mr. Carter, the facts are clear. The ownership of this car belongs to Mr. Ethan, M.S. Taylor. By gifting the vehicle to someone else without the owner's consent, you have violated the law. Please, both of you come with us to the station for questioning." "I'm not going." Sophia completely collapsed. Dad, come quickly. I'm being bullied." She began to make a scene, pulled out her phone, and called her father George. People around took out their phones and started furiously filming this dramatic scene. That Instagram video praising their divine love would probably soon be supplanted by this clip of the wrong party showing up to catch them in the act. I watched coldly from the sidelines. "Sophia, this is only the beginning. What you owe me, I will collect bit by bit, principal and interest included." George arrived faster than I expected, accompanied by his secretary and 2 bodyguards, full of menace. As soon as he came, he took the lead and shouted at the police. "What are you doing? Do you know who this is?" "My daughter. On what grounds are you arresting her?" The lead officer replied calmly and without flattery. "Mr. Taylor, we are conducting a lawful investigation. Your daughter is suspected of involvement in a theft case, and we need her to return with us to assist the investigation." "Stealing? Nonsense." George glared, then turned to me. "Ethan, was it you who called the police? You brat think you've grown wings, huh? It's just an old car. Sophia likes it. What's wrong with giving it to her friend? Did you have to make a scene at the police station? Have you forgotten how the Taylor family helped you back then?" He came at me with a whole moral guilt trip. I met his gaze without flinching. "Mr. George, I haven't forgotten. The $500,000 you invested back then, the dividends, and all the so-called tributes I've paid the Taylor family over the years have long since exceeded $50 million. As for myself, Ethan, I believe I've been fair to your Taylor family. As for this car," I paused, raised my voice to make sure everyone present could hear. "It's worth $4.6 million, not the old car you called it. More importantly, it's mine. Sophia stole my car and gave it away. I called the police. That's only right. Don't tell me she's your daughter. Even the King of Heavens isn't above the law." George was left speechless by my words, his face ashen. He probably hadn't expected that I, who had always been so submissive before him, would suddenly become so firm, even to the point of tearing things up publicly. Behind him, Sophia cried with mascara-streaked tears, grabbing his sleeve and complaining, "Dad, he still wants to break off the engagement with me. Over this little thing. He doesn't want me anymore." George patted his daughter's hand in pain, then took a deep breath, as if intending to change tactics. He slowed his tone and offered a bit of elder admonition. "Ethan, I know you're hot-headed and think you've lost face. Sophia was wrong in this matter. I apologize to you on her behalf. How about this? We'll return the car to you immediately. In addition, I'll give you a share, 1% of Apocalypse Tech. Let's let this matter drop. Don't make a scene. It's bad for everyone. 1% of shares, based on Apocalypse's current valuation, is $30 million US. I have to admit, George really knows how to hit the key points. He knows the thing I care about most is the company." The crowd murmured in low astonishment. To settle the matter, the Taylor family was actually willing to put up $30 million. Lucas whispered beside me, "Ethan, take the win and walk away. If this escalates and we tear things up with the Taylor family, it won't do us any good. Sophia had also stopped crying, a trace of triumph in her eyes. From her perspective, her father had already given me a graceful way out, and I had no reason not to take it. I looked at George's face, which seemed sincere but was actually full of scheming, and smiled. "Mr. George, you seem to have mistaken one thing," I said. "Today it's not a question of whether I want to tear our relationship apart with you. It's that your Taylor family has gone too far. Do you think I call the police for money? For shares? Let me tell you, none of those things. I just wanted to teach Sophia and all of you one lesson. Adults must be responsible for their actions." I turned to the two police officers. "Comrades, can you take them away now? I don't want to waste words with them anymore." The officers nodded. They had seen George's threats and bribery the whole time, and their opinion of this prominent Vero City socialite was clearly at rock bottom. "Ms. Taylor, Mr. Carter, please." Seeing that neither threats nor persuasion worked, George's face went completely dark. He stared at me and said, word by word, "Ethan, you're a good man. I hope you won't regret this later." "No," I replied with 2 words, calm and detached. Sophia and Leo, in the end, were taken into the police car under the gloating gazes of the other guests. The brand new McLaren 720S was also seized by the police as evidence and towed away for the time being. A grand birthday party ended in farce. On Instagram, the new video has already started going viral. Hashtag rich girl steals her fiancé's sports car and gives it to his mistress. The man reported it and she was arrested on the spot hashtag. This topic is at least 10 times hotter than the previous Divine Love scandal. The Taylor family has really lost face this time. Back at the company, Lucas was still shaken. "Ethan, you were absolutely amazing back there. But that old fox George, his look when he left was like he wanted to eat someone. We need to be careful. He'll definitely set a trap." I turned on my computer and brought up the company's security system backend. While checking the data, I said, "Meet force with force, counter water with earth. If he dares to come, I'll make him understand that the current apocalypse isn't something he can toy with." Lucas leaned over to take a look. "Why check the security? Afraid he'll send people to sabotage things." I shook my head and gave no explanation. Micah told me things might not be that simple. Sophia's behavior was too abnormal. Though she was spoiled, she wasn't stupid. She knew exactly what the foundation of our relationship was. She could act out, she could make a scene, but she would never cross the red line that would completely break us. And today, she didn't just touch it, she crushed it in the most foolish, most ostentatious way. As if she couldn't wait to anger me, to let everyone see me humiliated. Why? Just to please some Leo? I don't believe it. Leo, I had people looking at him. An unknown painter who runs a small studio and barely makes ends meet. Sophia met him at an art show, drawn to the melancholic artistic aura about him. Is a person like that worth Sophia risking her marriage and the Taylor family's reputation? There must be other reasons behind it. A bold guess slowly took shape in my mind. What if Sophia's real intention wasn't to give the car at all, but to use this matter to achieve some deeper purpose? For example, to enrage me, make me lose control of my emotions, and cause me to make wrong business decisions. Or simply to divert my attention away from something more important. What could be more important than my dignity and my marriage? There is only one thing. The core code of the Apocalypse Heart. It is the lifeblood of Apocalypse Tech and the culmination of 5 years of my efforts. I immediately called the company's CTO, who is also my college roommate, Noah Davis. "Noah, come to the office right now, highest priority." After hanging up, I pointed at the back-end data and said to Lucas, "Look at this. These are the access logs for the company's core servers." Just half an hour ago, at the same time the police were taking Sophia and Leo away, an external IP tried to log into the core database and entered the wrong password 3 times in a row, triggering an alert. Lucas's expression changed too. "Holy shit, someone tried to steal our code." They logged in using Sophia's account. I narrowed my eyes, a cold light flashing in them. Although Sophia is the nominal vice president, her permissions don't allow access to the core code. Yet they used her account. Don't you think that's odd? Lucas suddenly understood. I get it. It's a diversion. They deliberately staged the sport car incident to draw you and me away, then took the opportunity to act from inside the company. Using Sophia's account means even if it's discovered, you'll suspect her first. You'd at most think it's her revenge for being humiliated. Exactly. I tapped the table. They were clever, almost succeeded. Luckily, I left a safeguard. Logging into the core database requires 3-factor verification, password, a one-time token, and my fingerprint. While I was still speaking, Noah burst through the door, his forehead slick with sweat. Ethan, something's happened. Someone's attacking our firewall. I briefly summarized to him what I had just discovered. Noah immediately sat down at the computer, his fingers fluttering over the keyboard like butterflies. A few minutes later, he looked up, his face grave. Ethan, they're very professional. The IP address was bounced through multiple hops, and they even used botnets as cover. I tracked it for a while, and it ultimately disappeared abroad. But he pulled up a file. I intercepted a small packet. After the attack failed, they seemed to try to erase their traces, but our defense system automatically backed up the last few seconds of traffic. It's fragmented, but maybe we can recover something useful. I stared at the flickering gibberish on the screen as my suspicions grew clearer. Sophia, Leo, the sports car, the theft, the hacker attack. These seemingly isolated incidents, like strands, were threaded together, pointing to a massive conspiracy. And I was right at the center of that conspiracy. In the next 24 hours, I hardly slept. On one hand, I cooperated with the police to complete evidence collection and statements for the theft case. Because the facts were clear and the evidence conclusive, and with public opinion swelling, Sophia and Leo were placed under criminal detention. The amount stolen was enormous. This was no longer a simple civil dispute. George used all his connections to try to get Sophia out, but to no avail. He called me countless times, at first threatening and bribing, later groveling, begging me to provide a letter of forgiveness. Ethan, I'm begging you. As long as you sign the letter saying this was just a misunderstanding between lovers, Sophia can get out. Name your terms, shares, cash, property, anything. I replied to him with only one sentence on the phone. Mr. George, your daughter is currently only charged with attempted theft. If I tell you she is also suspected of corporate espionage, do you think a letter of pardon would still work? George on the other end of the line fell silent instantly. I knew he had understood the implication behind my words. Meanwhile, I had Noah and his team focus all their efforts on cracking the intercepted data packets. At the same time, I paid handsomely to hire the country's top private detective firm to investigate the two people. The first is Leo. I want to know everything about him, where he came from, who he's been in contact with, sources of funding, social connections. Leave nothing out. The second is Sophia. I want to know all her movements and communication record for the past 6 months. I believe that once the backgrounds of these two people are exposed, the truth won't be far behind. 2 days later, the private detective's first report was delivered to my desk. The contents of the report made my pupil's contract. Leo was by no means a down-and-out painter. His real name was Leo. He graduated from a prestigious university's computer science department and was a bona fide top hacker. His so-called studio was just a disguise. His actual income came from taking on various dirty jobs on the dark web. More importantly, the report showed that 6 months ago, Leo had a secret meeting with an executive from a company called Genesis Corporation. Genesis Corp is my biggest competitor in the country. Their core business is also artificial intelligence. In the past 2 years, to capture market share, they've been openly and covertly competing with us at Apocalypse Tech, and they've played dirty many times. Now it seems they've reached out with dirty hands to my pillow. Almost at the same time, Noah's side also made a breakthrough. Ethan, the packet has been cracked. He burst into my office excited. Although most of the data is corrupted, we managed to recover one file name and a small code snippet. He projected the recovered content onto the big screen. The file name is project_Aries_core.zip. Ares, the war god Ares, is the codename of the next-generation AI engine we're secretly developing. This project is the company's top secret. Only Noah, Lucas, and I know about it. And that code snippet was precisely the bootstrap loader for the Ares engine. The chain of evidence closed perfectly. The truth stood revealed. This wasn't a melodrama of love turned to hate, but a long-planned act of corporate espionage. Leo was a spy sent by Genesis Corporation. He posed as a painter, got close to Sophia, and exploited Sophia's dissatisfaction with me and her inherent greed to recruit her. The sports car incident was a three birds with one stone scheme. First, to publicly humiliate me, stir up public opinion, and to stir my mind. Second, to lure me away from the company and create a time window for Leo's hacking attack. Third, use Sophia's account to carry out the attack. If it fails, they can pin it on her and let her take the fall while Leo walks away unscathed. What a poisonous scheme. If I were still the old Ethan who clung to past feelings and vacillated, I might really have been played by them. Too bad, they'd miscalculated. Lucas looked at the evidence on the screen, a chill running down his spine. These bastards. That poisonous bitch Sophia. I really want to go and kill her right now. I waved my hand, signaling him to calm down. Now is not the time, I said coldly. Leo is a big fish, but behind him is an even bigger net. I don't just want him and Sophia disgraced and ruined. I want to uproot Genesis Corporation. Lucas looked at me, a hint of incomprehension in his eyes. Ethan, we already have the evidence. If we call the police now and expose the corporate espionage case, Genesis Corp is finished. Why wait? I smiled, a hint of hunter-like excitement in my grin. Calling the police right away would be too easy for them. They set up such a big trap for me. If I don't give them a grander gift in return, wouldn't that make me seem petty? I watched the endless stream of traffic outside the window as an even bolder, crazier plan began to take shape in my mind. Lucas, Noah, get ready. We will please you into the urn. In the following days, the business world of Vero City appeared calm on the surface, but beneath it waves had long been surging. I made a decision that stunned everyone. I voluntarily withdrew the theft charges against Sophia and submitted a letter of forgiveness to the police. I said that the car was originally a gift I intended to give Sophia. She just gave me a surprise ahead of time. It was a misunderstanding caused by poor communication. When those words came out, public opinion erupted. Everyone thought I was crazy. Ethan chickened out? He got cheated on with such a huge cuckoldry, and in the end he still obediently let her go. Too funny. A capitalist is a capitalist. Dignity means nothing when there's money involved. It must have been the Taylor family offering a huge payoff. Poor Leo. He was used as a tool for nothing. I bet the Taylor family has already dumped him. Lucas was the first to rush into my office to object. Ethan, what are you doing? We got the trump card in our hands. Why would you let that venomous Sophia go? I patted his shoulder reassuringly. Don't worry, the bait has been cast. You have to give the fish the nerve to bite, don't you? The day Sophia was released, George came to pick her up in person. I sat in the car across the street, quietly watching them. Sophia was thinner, her face pale, but the hatred in her eyes was impossible to hide. She saw my car, glared at it viciously, and then climbed into George's Rolls-Royce. I knew she wouldn't give up just like that. After someone goes through great ups and downs, their mindset changes in one of two ways. Either they wake up and reform, or they escalate. Sophia was clearly the latter. This short stay in detention did not make her reflect. On the contrary, it magnified all her dissatisfaction and resentment toward me. She felt that it was my report to the police that brought her this humiliating disgrace, that I had ruined her reputation. She became even more eager to take revenge on me, to take more from me. And this was exactly what I wanted. As expected, just as I predicted. The day after Sophia was released, she took a long leave from work citing convalescence. But the private detective's report showed she wasn't recuperating at home. She secretly met with Leo. Meanwhile, over at Genesis Corp, they also started making some moves. On several government projects we were bidding on, they suddenly pushed hard, using an almost self-destructive low-price strategy to crazily snatch up contracts. Their goal was clear: to wreck our cash flow this way and put operational pressure on us. Lucas was frantic like ants on a hot pan. "Ethan, we can't wait any longer. Genesis Corp is trying to wage a price war against us, wearing us down. Although we aren't short on money, being drained by them like this is demoralizing." I, however, sat calmly on the fishing platform, even having the company's finance department release a few smoke bombs suggesting the funding chain is tight. "Let them fight for it," I told my sales director. "For every project competing with Genesis Corp, we follow along symbolically, then withdraw proactively. Focus all effort and resources on the final sprint for Project Ares." Inside the company, people were suddenly unsettled. Many didn't understand my decision and assumed the company was truly doomed. Some executives even began secretly contacting headhunters, and I allowed all of this to happen. I not only want to make the enemy drop their guard, but also take this chance to see clearly which people around me can truly stick with me through thick and thin, and which can only share in wealth, not in hardship. I will play this role to the hilt. A week later, the timing was right. Under the influence of drink, I accidentally let something slip during an internal senior management meeting. I said that the reason Apocalypse Tech is facing its current predicament is because we invested all our funds into a single, era-defining project capable of overturning the entire industry, the Ares engine. I said this project has already entered its final testing phase. Once successful, not to mention a Genesis Corp, even foreign tech giants would have to step aside. I also accidentally revealed that all core data for the Ares engine is stored on an isolated physical server. For security, I set extremely complex passwords, and moreover, the backup key on a USB drive is kept in the safe in my office. This information spread like a virus through those scheming executives and quickly got out. The news reached Sophia's ears. It also reached the ears of Genesis Corporation. I knew the bait was about to be taken. This was the first time in my life I felt such a strong sense of betrayal. It stabbed into my heart like cold needles. But I knew I couldn't fall. That night, I deliberately let Lucas drag me to a bar to drink, creating the appearance that I wasn't at the office, and I accidentally posted a photo of myself dead drunk on moments. In the office, I had long since set an inescapable trap. Besides the usual surveillance, I had also installed several pinhole cameras and high-precision audio recorders. The safe was custom-made by me. It had 2 compartments. In the outer layer, there was indeed a USB drive, but what it stored was a carefully prepared gift of mine. The real core data had long ago been moved to a place no one would think of. At 11 that night, the show began. On the surveillance footage, a familiar figure sneaks into the company corridor. It's Sophia. She used her access card to open the company door, then walked straight toward my office. She looked very nervous and clumsy in her movements. It was obvious this wasn't something she was good at. A man was following her. It was Leo. He appeared much calmer than Sophia, even having the leisure to examine the furnishings in my office. "Don't dawdle. Hurry up," Sophia urged. "Ethan could come back at any moment." Leo snorted. "Don't worry. He won't come home sober tonight. Even if he does, he'll be useless. Your ex-fiancé is no different. We had him running circles." Sophia's expression darkened somewhat, but she didn't argue. The 2 of them entered my office and went straight for the safe. Leo took various professional tools from the bag he carried: a stethoscope, a micro drill, an endoscope. He was clearly a seasoned pro. In just 10 minutes, accompanied by a faint click, the safe's door was opened. Sophia let out an excited little exclamation. She took the black USB drive out of it and waved it excitedly in front of Leo. "Got it. We did it." Leo took the USB drive, a greedy gleam flashing in his eyes. He pulled a compact, encrypted notebook from his pocket and plugged the USB drive in. "Don't rush. I need to inspect the goods first." On the screen, A folder quickly popped up, its name exactly project_core. Leo opened the folder. It was filled with dense documents and code files. He randomly opened a few and skimmed through them quickly. That's right. It's the core bootloader and algorithm module. That idiot Ethan actually put something this important here. As he spoke, he copied all the files from the USB drive onto his own computer. At that moment, in another room, Lucas, Noah, and I were quietly watching their performance on the big screen. Lucas's fists were clenched so tight they creaked. Ethan, time to close the net, right? Caught red-handed. I shook my head, a cold curve forming at the corner of my mouth. Don't be impatient. The real show is only just beginning. Did you think the database I gave them was all there was? When Leo inserted the USB into his encrypted laptop, a Trojan virus I personally wrote, disguised as a normal driver, had already been silently planted on his computer. This virus won't steal any of his files, nor will it damage his system. It would do only one thing: package and encrypt all communications, transaction receipts, and any evidence of industrial espionage related to Genesis Corp on his computer, then send them to the email address I specify. Lucas and Noah were both stunned. Fuck, Ethan, are you reverse phishing? No, I corrected them. This is called catching them all. Leo finished copying the files, immediately pulled out the USB drive, and handed it to Sophia. Got the stuff. Let's go. Remember, stick to the plan. Sophia nodded, clutching the USB drive tightly in her palm, a cruel satisfaction flickering across her face. Don't worry. Ethan ruined me like this. I'll make sure he has nothing left, that his reputation is destroyed. The two quickly left the company. I watched their backs disappear into the night, took out my phone, and dialed a number. You may begin. The real storm arrived punctually at 9 the next morning. Genesis Corp held an extremely grand online press conference to announce that they had achieved a groundbreaking technological breakthrough, successfully developing the country's first strong artificial intelligence engine with completely independent intellectual property rights, Milky Way. The CEO of Genesis Corp, Daniel, a man approaching 50 with a slick-back hairstyle, was high-spirited at the press conference. He claimed that the Milky Way engine's performance comprehensively surpassed all similar products on the market, including our Apocalypse Tech Heart of Apocalypse. To prove it, he even demonstrated the Milky Way engine's powerful real-time computation and logical reasoning capabilities on the spot. For a time, the entire tech world and the capital markets were shaken. Genesis Corp's stock price hit the daily limit at the opening, and our Apocalypse Tech became the laughingstock of everyone. Apocalypse is finished. Its core technology has been surpassed. How can it continue to play? I heard Ethan put all his money on the next generation engine. Now he's lost everything. This is dramatic. Just a few days ago, people were enjoying watching him tear into his fiancée, and today he's the entertainment himself. The company's phones were almost jammed, all calls coming from partners and investors asking questions. Inside the company, morale had sunk to rock bottom. Lucas paced around the office anxiously. Ethan, when are we going to fight back? If we don't clear this up soon, the company will collapse. I sat calmly in my chair, looking at the computer screen. On the screen was Daniel's self-satisfied face. Not yet, I said softly. Wait until he flies a little higher. The final segment of the press conference was the reporter's questions. A reporter who had been prearranged stood up and asked, Mr. Daniel, we've noticed that many technical parameters of the Galaxy engine are very similar to some concepts previously released by Apocalypse Tech. May I ask whether there is any connection here? Or, in other words, is there any suspicion of technological plagiarism? This question was obviously something Daniel had prepared for a long time. He had been waiting for this very moment. At first, he put on an expression of deep sorrow and indignation. Then he sighed. As for this matter, I originally didn't want to say much. But since you asked, I can only regretfully tell everyone a fact. He shifted his tone, his voice suddenly rising. It's not that we copied Apocalypse, but that Apocalypse Tech has been stealing the R&D results of our Genesis Corp. The room erupted. Daniel struck while the iron was hot, throwing one piece of so-called evidence after another up onto the big screen. They were some early codes of our Heart of Apocalypse, subjected to a so-called comparison with his and the Starlake engine's code. Of course, these comparisons were all carefully edited and altered by him. They do look somewhat similar. Everyone please look. Ethan, this so-called genius, is actually a shameless thief. He used his former senior status to gain my trust, stole the initial engine code of our Genesis Corp. And that's how today's apocalypse tech came to be. He spoke with tears and emotion, as if he himself were the betrayed, suffering victim. He even produced a witness. I know this person. He was my university supervisor, Professor. He was also Daniel's junior by academic rank. Professor, during the video call, lamented and confirmed that when I was a student, I did indeed have the opportunity to access some of Daniel's early research materials. With that, all the dirt was completely thrown onto me. Public opinion instantly flipped. If before it had been only a failed business rivalry, now I had become a shameless scoundrel of ruined character who stole his mentor's work. This is meant to nail me to the pillar of shame forever, never to recover. At that moment, at the press conference, an unexpected guest suddenly burst in. It's Sophia. She was holding that black USB drive, strode straight up onto the stage, and snatched the microphone from Daniel. I can testify. Everything Mr. Daniel said is true. Ethan is a despicable, shameless liar. A thief. Her arrival pushed the atmosphere of the press conference to its peak. All cameras focused on her. Sophia's face was streaked with tears as she hoarsely accused me of my crimes. He deceived me. I thought he was a talented, ambitious entrepreneur, so I begged my father to invest in him, to help him. But I never expected that everything about him was stolen. He not only stole Genesis Corp's technology, he also deceived my feelings. He keeps a mistress, embezzles company assets. When I discovered the truth and tried to confront him, he actually played the victim, called the police on me, and framed me for stealing his car. Fortunately, I found the evidence. This USB drive contains ironclad proof that he stole Genesis Corp's core technology. Today, in front of the whole world, I'm going to expose his hypocritical mask. As she spoke, she reached to plug the USB drive into the computer on site. Daniel pretended to step forward to block him, but wore a victorious smile on his face. This was exactly the effect he wanted. Let my former fiancée deliver this fatal blow to me. To strike at the heart, nothing surpasses this. In my office, Lucas was so furious he could barely speak, pointing at Sophia on the screen, his whole body shaking. That wicked woman! That wicked woman! How dare she? How dare she twist truth like this? Noah's face was ashen too. Only I remained calm. I even smiled. All right, the show is over. It's our turn to take the stage. I pressed a button on the table. The faces of Daniel and Sophia on the big screen at the press conference vanished in an instant. In their place, a piece of surveillance footage appeared. The footage was from the night before last in my office. On the screen, Sophia and Leo creep in furtively, pry open the safe, and steal the USB drive. The entire process recorded in clear detail. The scene fell completely silent in an instant. Everyone stared at the screen in stunned disbelief at this earth-shattering moment. Sophia's grief and accusation on her face froze in an instant, turning into utter terror and disbelief. She stared dumbly at the big screen, her mouth open wide enough to fit an egg. Daniel's smile also stiffened on his face. Before he could react, the image on the big screen switched again. This time, what played was an audio recording. The audio contains a conversation between Leo and Sophia in the office. Don't worry, he won't come home sober tonight. Even if he does, he'll be useless. Your ex-fiancé is no different, played around by us until he's dizzy. Once we have his stuff, we leave. Remember, act according to the plan. Rest assured, Ethan ruined me so badly. I'll make sure he has nothing left and that his reputation is destroyed. Irrefutable proof. The so-called stealing of technology, the so-called exposing the truth. From beginning to end, it was a self-directed, self-performed setup to frame and incriminate. The press conference venue completely erupted. The reporters, like maniacs, pointed their microphones and cameras all at the two people on stage whose faces had gone ashen. "Miss Taylor, can you explain this?" "Mr. Daniel, is this what your Genesis Corp calls independently developed? Is this a business scam? You are guilty of false accusation and framing." Sophia completely broke down, collapsing to the ground, whispering over and over, "Impossible, impossible." Daniel tried one last struggle, shouting at the security guard, "Turn it off. Quickly, turn off the screen for me." But it was already too late. The big screen didn't shut off. Instead, it switched to the third segment. It was all the materials from Leo's computer that had been packaged and sent by my Trojan. Inside, it detailed how he accepted employment from Genesis Corp, how he disguised his identity to get close to Sophia, how he turned her and all of their chat logs and transfer receipts documenting how they jointly planned and executed this act of corporate espionage. There was even a recording of Daniel personally promising him $50 million as payment after the job was done and arranging for him to be sent abroad. If the previous surveillance footage and recordings only proved that Sophia and Leo had framed him, then this piece of evidence was a sharp sword driven straight into the heart of Genesis Corp and Daniel. This was no longer a simple commercial dispute. This is a blatant, premeditated, organized, major commercial crime. The story is not over. Just as the scene descended into chaos, the main doors of the press conference were pushed open. Several police officers from the Economic Crime Investigation Unit, wearing uniforms and escorted by a large crowd of reporters, walked in. The lead officer, his face stern, walked straight up onto the stage. Behind him was me, Ethan. I scanned the scene. My gaze swept past the stunned Sophia and the ashen-faced Daniel, finally settling on the flashing lights below the stage. I picked up a microphone, and my voice carried clearly through the speakers across the entire venue. "Hello, everyone. I'm Ethan. I think everyone has seen clearly what just happened. This was a carefully planned conspiracy, a malicious frame-up targeting me and my company, Apocalypse Tech. Mr. Daniel, my college senior and the founder of Genesis Corp, in order to steal our core technology from Apocalypse Tech, went so far as to bribe hackers, seduce, and turn my former fiancée, staging this whole thief crying stop thief spectacle. Unfortunately for him, the higher the demon rises, the higher the Tao stands." I raised the document in my hand. Just last night, I submitted all the evidence to the police. They launched an overnight investigation and this morning successfully arrested the criminal suspect Leo, that so-called painter Leo. At the same time, I also formally filed a lawsuit in court against Genesis Corp and its legal representative Daniel. The grounds for the suit include, but are not limited to, commercial defamation, theft of trade secrets, unfair competition, and several other charges. The claim amount is $3 billion US. $3 billion US. The number hit like a heavyweight bomb, detonating through the crowd. This was almost the entirety of Apocalypse Tech's current valuation. Daniel swayed, nearly unable to stand. He pointed at me, his lips trembling, but not a single word came out. "He's finished." I knew he was finished. Genesis Corp is finished. Sophia is finished too. She looked at me, and there was no longer hatred in her eyes, only endless fear and despair. She crawled toward me, grabbed my pant leg, and begged pitifully, "Ethan, I was wrong. I really was wrong. I was possessed by some madness. Please forgive me this once, okay? For the sake of what we had." I lowered my head, looking at the woman who once moved a sliver of genuine feeling in me, but now filled me with revulsion, and slowly shook my head. "Sentiment? When you conspired with others to try to kill me, between us there is nothing left but the law." I kicked her hand away and didn't look at her again. The lead officer stepped forward and presented the arrest warrant to Daniel and Sophia. "Daniel, Sophia, you're suspected of theft and disclosure of trade secrets and of false accusation and framing. The evidence is conclusive. You are now formally arrested according to law. cold handcuffs clamped around both of their wrists. Under the live-streaming cameras across the internet, watched by countless eyes, they were led away by the police. Once ambitious rising stars of tech, once pampered and willful heiresses, at this moment both had become disheveled, shameful prisoners. What awaits them is the full force of the law and a long stretch behind bars. The farce at the press conference came to an end in a way no one expected. But the seismic shock triggered by this matter was only just beginning. Genesis Corp's stock plunged, hitting daily limits in a rout that wiped out 90% of its market value in 3 days, bringing it to the brink of bankruptcy. A large number of partners announced contract terminations, and key technical staff resigned en masse. The Taylor family was likewise plunged into disaster. George's proud daughter had become a prisoner, and Genesis Corp, the company he had invested in and been deeply tied to, had turned into a massive hole. Banks called in loans, partners turned against him, and the Taylor family's business empire teetered overnight. He dragged his haggard body to find me and waited downstairs at my company for a full 5 hours. When he finally saw me, the man who had once been so arrogant in my presence seemed to have aged 20 years overnight. "Ethan," his voice was hoarse. "Let Sophia go, and let the Taylor family go too. I'm willing to transfer all my shares in Apocalypse to you free of charge." He thought this was still his final bargaining chip. I smiled. "Mr. George, have you forgotten? Because of the enormous losses your daughter and your partner caused our company, the court has already ruled to freeze and secure all assets under your and your daughter's names, which include the Apocalypse shares you hold. In other words, those shares haven't been yours for a long time. They will be forcibly executed and awarded to me as compensation." George's eyes instantly lost their last spark. I watched his distraught back without a shred of pity. The pitiable often have things to be hated for. If it weren't for his greed and indulgence, how would Sophia have come to this? When an avalanche happens, not a single snowflake is innocent. Half a month later, the court handed down a first-instance verdict. Daniel, Leo, and Sophia, as principal offenders, were found guilty of major commercial crimes. Their multiple convictions were combined, and each was sentenced to more than 7 years in prison and fined. Genesis Corp entered bankruptcy liquidation. I acquired most of Genesis Corp's valuable assets at a very low price, including their technical patents and research and development team. My treacherous supervisor, Professor, was also summarily dismissed by his university for academic misconduct, ruined and disgraced. As for the Taylor family, under multiple blows, they were completely declared bankrupt and permanently expelled from Vero City's high society. All who betrayed me and harmed me paid the heavy price they deserved. The end. 3 months later, Apocalypse Tech held its own new product launch. I stood on the same stage and formally presented to the whole world our true ace, the Ares War God engine. Its performance is more than 10 times stronger than the neutered version Genesis Corp stole. The launch event was an unprecedented success. Apocalypse Tech's valuation overnight jumped 5-fold, surpassing $15 billion, becoming the undisputed leader in the domestic artificial intelligence field. At the victory banquet, Lucas and Noah, the 2 brothers who had stuck with me from when I had nothing, raised their glasses, their eyes a little red. "Ethan, you're awesome." Lucas punched me excitedly. This battle, fought so damn brilliantly, so satisfying. Noah sighed. "Yeah, who would have thought that what looked like a simple relationship dispute would hide such a huge storm? Kid, you single-handedly turned this ship that was about to capsize back upright, and along the way swallowed a giant whale." I smiled, clinked glasses with them, and downed the champagne in my cup. I walked to the floor-to-ceiling window and looked down at the city's dazzling lights. Some say that after the thrill of revenge comes endless emptiness, but I didn't. In my heart, there is only clarity and peace. What I take revenge on is never a single person, but that kind of treachery and unscrupulous evil. What I defend is not just a single company, but the dignity of all dreamers who build honestly with their wisdom and sweat. I am no saint, nor do I ever believe in repaying evil with virtue. To me, the best gratitude is to let kindness find its echo, and the most thorough revenge is to live better than your enemies and stand higher than them. From now on, my life will have no more Sophia, no more Taylors, no more of those conspiracies and betrayals. Only the stars and the sea and the apocalypse era that belongs to me. The neon outside the window reflects in my eyes like a burning river of stars. I know that all of this is only just beginning.